Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Season 4 of the Jet Take, and it's an emergency podcast time. Kyle, we've been off for a little bit.
We have.
We were going to do a show yesterday with callers, but I wasn't.
Didn't work out.
Yeah, that was my fault. I was driving from LA to Palm Springs, and I didn't get home.
We don't care. Let's get to the news. We don't care.
Whatever. Anyways, then we were going to do one today, and the whole day has been leading up to Le'Veon Bell. Where is he going to go? You know, it's been feeling like, is it the Raiders? Is it the Bears? I thought it was going to be the Ravens. We listened to his mixtape drop at midnight. I went to bed. I was like, this shit sucks. And then Kyle FaceTimed me. Le'Veon Bell to the New York Jets, 4 years. What was it, 52 and a half. I forget. $52.5 million, 13 a year. Kyle Fahey, your initial reaction to Le'Veon Bell, and then we'll get into the rest of the Jets free agency.
This is phenomenal. I mean, this is literally something. It's strange how this has happened the past couple of years with, you know, the Jets fans are like, oh, suck for Sam. And then that actually happened. And it was like, oh, Le'Veon's going to become a Jet because he wants all this money. And look, now that's actually happening. And Sam's working out well. I think Bell's going to work out well. This is phenomenal. This adds a whole new element to the offense that the Jets haven't had since, 2002, 2003 when Curtis was still in his prime. I mean, we're talking about arguably the best running back in the NFL, one of the better ones to ever play on a football field. Le'Veon Bell is a phenomenal running back. We just got him for about $13 million a year. It's a pretty fair contract, honestly, in terms of the running back market today for somebody of high standard. This was a great job. There was, as far as we can tell, we couldn't tell anything. That was the great part about this. Jets fans really had no idea what was going on. Credit to Mike Maccagnan. If Jet fans didn't know what was going on, you know, we're pretty good at finding things out. We got the Carls of the universe. That usually means other teams were not in the loop as well. Jets did a phenomenal job at keeping this quiet, under the books. I read that Le'Veon Bell signed the contract, or agreed to it, not signed because he can't sign until Wednesday, but agreed to it around 4 o'clock today, and he was just using this for promotional. It's not a coincidence. I think that's the truth. So this is phenomenally executed by Mike Maccagnan and company, up in the front office. This is a good deal. You are building around Sam Darnold right now. This is a 4-year deal for Le'Veon Bell. 4 years left on Sam Darnold's contract. You're going to free up some cap at the time that, Sam is looking for that elite quarterback extension. This is
hopefully.
Just very well, hopefully. Very well put together, very well constructed, and just fantastic. Hopefully for the next 4 years, I can guarantee you the next 2 years are going to be very good for Le'Veon Bell. He's ready to go. He's ready to play football, and he deserves his contract. Let's get naked, baby. Let's score some points. I'm excited.
Yeah. In conclusion, my dick is hard. I mean, look, this is an unbelievable win for Mike Maccagnan. I mean, this is a much-needed win for him.
I'm fighting for my life, man.
Yeah, the R. Kelly video that we tweeted out from our account pretty much accurately describes how Mike Maccagnan should have been feeling all throughout the day. I mean, he needed this signing, especially with the reports of Anthony Barr feeling physically sick after signing with the Jets or agreeing with the Jets and going back on it, not pouncing on Matt Paradis. And then there's, even stuff with the Browns surrounding Baker Mayfield with Odell Beckham Jr. and all sorts of other stuff. He needed a win like Le'Veon Bell, and he got it. And, you touched on it. He's a generational player and a player that the Jets have not had on their offense really since Curtis Martin. And as Le'Veon Bell kind of noted, that did play a part. Le'Veon Bell grew up a Jets fan, grew up a Curtis Martin fan, and, I wonder if Curtis Martin would let him wear number 28. But, people always scoff at paying running backs big numbers. I mean, first of all, the Jets are on, as you mentioned, Sam Darnold on a rookie deal. So this is monopoly money. And they structured it so it ends in 4 years when Sam's contract ends, just like you pointed out. But, Le'Veon Bell is much more than just a running back. He's going to be Sam Darnold's best friend. He's a great pass protector. He's great, catching the ball. And obviously he's a great running back. He's going to open up this whole offense. Obviously there are some concerns about him taking a year off, but you could look at it, the glass half full approach of, look, he didn't take hits for a year, and he's fully rested, without taking an injury. So I'm, absolutely in favor of the signing. It was a signing that the Jets had to get done heading into free agency. I'm excited. I'm excited and ecstatic.
Yep, there it is. I knew you were going to say it. This is phenomenal. I mean, this is literally the best Jets news we've had in a long time, and I guess we'll transition to the larger scope of what the Jets have been doing this offseason, and we haven't talked about some of the other things, but
we've been gone. We've been gone for a while.
We have been gone. Well, all the news has been the past 2 days, basically. So we missed nothing.
generally the way we've done the show the past 3 years, now that we're entering our 4th year, is we take a little break after the season, and then we start up around now. We're pretty consistent during free agency and the draft and whatnot. We fall off a little bit during the summer, and we come back with some interviews. We're there for the season, and when the Jets suck, we fall off a little bit and come back. We apologize for inconsistency. But, yeah, I mean, we knew we were going to take a few weeks off. But I think our last episode was about, when the Jets hired Adam Gase or whatnot. But since then, let's go back, as you mentioned, let's go back to a few days prior to the first kind of big move that the Jets made all offseason, which I was really in favor of, which was the trade with the Oakland Raiders to land Kelechi Osemele, who fills a huge
I'm going to
need.
go with Kelechi Osemele. That's my guess.
Yeah, I have no idea. I think it's Kelechi, but I honestly have no idea. But, I mean, look, it fills a huge need at left guard. I mean, James Carpenter, one, wasn't really cutting it in the new scheme from last year, and he was also just injured, the past 2 years. I know Osemele didn't have a great, if that's how you pronounce his last name, didn't have a great 2018, but he had a dominant 2016 and a very good 2017 as well. And I think that, the hope is that he's, 29. Can Frank Pollack get him back to the level that he was at in 2016 and 2017? So I'm a big fan of that signing. Kyle, anything else you'd like to add on the Kelechi trade?
Basically a free player. I mean, we gave up a 5th-round pick, and we got him and a 6th-round pick back. A player and a 6th-round pick usually equals a 5th-round pick. It was just, the Raiders trying to get rid of, $10 million in cap, and then I think like $12 million next year. Non-guaranteed cap. If it doesn't work out, the Jets can cut him, and they literally lose nothing besides a 5th-round pick, which history states will equate to almost nothing. I mean, let's be real here. With the Jets drafting and just the NFL in general, you're not losing much. This is a risk I'm willing to take. It's a good deal. He's a fairly cheap left guard in terms of what his production has been career-wise. He had a down year last year with a horrible roster, horrible running game. Marshawn Lynch was arguably his lead back, and I think he ended up with 400 yards on the year. And obviously just not a great team overall. Really piss poor, and he battled injuries. So he's obviously looking for a rebound. This is, one of those deals that Maccagnan has made in the past with Ryan Clady. We saw coming out of Denver. James Carpenter, as a free agent coming out of Seattle, was on the rebound. Spencer Long obviously didn't work out. Was on the rebound coming off an injury in Washington. Kelvin Beachum was coming off an injury, off the rebound. This is what Mike Maccagnan likes to do with his offensive linemen. He likes to take gambles, and, some of them, like Spencer Long, don't pan out. Some of them, like Kelvin Beachum, work out pretty well. And I think, given his history and his pedigree as an NFL player, I think Osemele is going to do a fairly good job as long as he stays healthy. So I'm a big fan of the move.
Yeah, and for all the shit we give Mike Maccagnan, which is fairly deserved for his piss-poor draft record and even his free agency woes, the one thing you have to give him is he has pulled off numerous
incredible
trades. Yeah, I mean, the one for Bridgewater to land a 3rd, trading up for Darnold, even going back to his first year and getting Brandon Marshall and Ryan Fitzpatrick was good for a year. His whole resume, when it comes to trades, has been fairly solid. So that's one part of his GM tenure that I've really liked. Moving forward, then the Jets added 2 wide receivers, one probably more significant than the other, and Jamison Crowder, who's going to be the Jets' new starting slot receiver, who I really like, and Josh Bellamy, who's more of a depth guy, was with Gase, a locker room guy, and a special teamer. So, Kyle, I mean, your thoughts on both. I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of Jamison Crowder. He can help in the punt return game, but, as Dan Orlovsky put it, I mean, the best inside receiver in this free agency class. And it was a position of need for the Jets. They didn't really have a good slot receiver last year. Jermaine Kearse was half-assing it the entire year. Kyle, kind of your thoughts on Crowder and then to a lesser extent Josh Bellamy.
What I'll say about Crowder is he's got a lot of potential. I remember when he kind of first arrived on the scene in Washington. A lot of people I know in the Redskins community, which tend to hide their face nowadays, they were hyping him up. They're like, this kid could be something special, and we've definitely seen a lot of flashes out of him. And he has had some moments of greatness, and he's had some moments. And overall, I think he got a contract that he may not exactly deserve, but it's the market today. Crowder is a talented wide receiver who can be a very good number 2, number 3 type of guy, especially in the slot, but he can be utilized a lot more. I don't like the slot term that people are putting on him because he can definitely stretch the field. He can work the middle. He can work the outside. He's an all-around guy. He is your average, NFL receiver with some nice qualities. And what I'll say about him is that in his career, he has worked with Alex Smith for a limited amount of time, Kirk Cousins for most of his career, Colt McCoy for the second largest chunk of his career. I think Josh Johnson was in there at one point. I mean, he's not working with great quarterbacks throughout his career. So I think in terms of stats, you can't really look at it. You have to look at his talent, and I like the signing. I really do. It adds a nice amount of depth. You can still draft a guy and say, Crowder was just a body. It's whatever. Swallow the money. It's whatever. Or Crowder can be fairly productive for you as the number 3 guy.
Yeah, I think Crowder is penciled in as the slot receiver. I think they are going to draft a guy, and I think that guy is going to be more of the big-bodied receiver. If they had a second-round pick and a guy like Hakeem Butler fell, I don't think he will, because I personally think he's the best receiver in this class. Kyle, we could debate that on a future show. If a guy like him fell or a big-body receiver fell, I think that's kind of the target for the Jets to add a 4th guy. But I really like the Crowder signing. I think he's going to be very beneficial for Darnold, just as a safe pair of hands. And then you kind of look at the weapons. You have a guy in Robbie Anderson who can stretch the field and really establish nice chemistry with Darnold towards the end of the year. And then you have a guy like Enunwa coming back from injury. Gase has said, I don't want to put him in a box. I want to play him outside. More of like what he was doing in 2016. And the Enunwa we saw in 2016 was very promising and showed that he could potentially be a number 1 wide receiver. So I'm excited to see Q and Robbie hopefully healthy, and then adding a guy like Crowder in the middle. And, just touching a Bellamy, I think that's just a solid signing to add to Boyer's unit. It probably spells the end for Jerome Peak on this roster, which is, is a good thing. Moving forward, a few more signings. We'll come back to Bell, and we'll look forward, and then we'll wrap this up. I guess we'll talk about Anthony Barr first. So a few disappointments back to back, and then we'll come back to Mosley and Bell. We'll start with Bell, or we'll start with Barr. Kyle, I mean, your thoughts on the whole situation. I was intrigued by the Jets kind of bringing him in and saying, looking at a player in free agency and seeing something that other teams don't see, and seeing that he could be an edge rusher and return to what he was arguably his best strength in college. I was excited to see him in Greg Williams' defense. I'm not going to lie. Maybe it was a blessing in disguise, to free up that extra cap space. At least that was the rationalization I was going through, saying maybe they could just throw that money at, Paradis now. Obviously, that didn't happen. So, yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed that Barr didn't sign, and obviously the headlines that he was, felt physically ill after agreeing to terms with the Jets doesn't help the optics. But, I think you look at this. Yeah, it was definitely the cupcakes. But this is a draft class that has some premier edge players, and especially if the Jets stay at 3, there's a guy like Josh Allen who I absolutely love in this draft class.
Very similar to Anthony Barr as well.
Actually, yeah, and even if you trade down, there's still options. There's a lot of good edge players in this draft, so it's not the end of the world to lose Anthony Barr. Certainly you don't like signing a player than having it back out at the 11th hour. And it also didn't allow the Jets to pursue the 2 Smiths on the market that I also liked, Preston Smith and Zardarius Smith. But, at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world. The Jets can still go find their pass rusher in the draft, which I think they will do in the first round. But, Kyle, your kind of thoughts on the whole Anthony Barr situation?
It's unfortunate. Anthony Barr is a very good player, and I think regardless of whether or not his position, because his real position is off-ball linebacker. Call what I'm not going to label him. He's a linebacker. We'll just put it at that in today's NFL. If you want to put your hand in the dirt and rush, if you want to stand up and cover the running back or the slot receiver, you can do whatever the hell you want in the NFL nowadays. There's really not a type anymore. It's just how athletic are you and how smart are you and how willing are you to put into work and become the best player you can be. And frankly, the Jets need a lot more of those players. Anthony Barr and C.J. Mosley are 2 guys like that who can do a lot of different things. Anthony Barr, a lot more athletic than C.J. Mosley. So I liked the signing. I really did. I was a big fan of it. Obviously, I don't think it was the biggest need because I don't consider him an ideal pass rusher. Say what you want about his ability and out of college. He has made the Pro Bowl 4 out of 5 years as an off-ball linebacker. And I understand that he has the talent as a pass rusher, but that's his best ability, and I don't think you should take that away from a guy because that's what your need is. Now, obviously, I think Greg Williams would be very creative with him and, try to get the most out of him, but in terms of the signing itself, I like the idea as a pure talent. I don't think he really would have worked out as a pure pass rusher. I know what he did in college. I was a big fan of it. He did a lot of good things. And PFF says he has the most productive pass rushing grade in the NFL, actually, but he only had 46 pass rushing reps. Say what you want about that. He basically had, 1 game worth of pass rushing. I mean, I would guess the average defensive player gets around 46 snaps a game, something like that, right? I mean, if you're a defensive...
I understand what you're saying. I mean, it was a gamble, but, I am going to trust a veteran defensive mind like Greg Williams. And then you can also look at some of the stats where it's like when he does rush the passer, the percentage of which he gets the quarterback. I understand the move. We shouldn't spend too much time on it because obviously it didn't happen.
It doesn't matter.
The biggest thing it did was it precluded the Jets from going out and getting a guy like Preston Smith or Zardarius. But at the end of the day, as I said, you can still attack that need in the draft, or you can still turn around in free agency and sign a guy like Justin Houston if you want. Yeah, exactly, cheaper. And we'll stick with one more disappointment before we get to the two big deals. Matt Paradis, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. This is the thing that you weren't too upset about when I talked to you on the phone when Le'Veon signed. I mean, I was. When I saw that news break today that he signed with the Carolina Panthers for $9 million a year, $27 million for 3 years, I was shocked that the Jets did not offer something more. And again, I'm not in the negotiating room, so maybe the Jets did, and he just didn't want to go to New York. Who knows? But from Gary Vaynerchuk's tweets, it sounds like the Jets just weren't offering him a contract or, pulled their contract when he said, it takes two to tango or whatever. I was of the mindset of like, look, I love what they did with the Awesome Alley trade, shoring up the left. I don't know if I've got that last name right. Shoring up the left guard. You can get a guy, to anchor your offensive line, to put Sam Darnold right behind your franchise quarterback. And we saw the issues with Spencer Long last year, not being able to snap the ball and blocking issues. You bring a guy like Paredes in, he's going to snap the ball consistently. He's a top center in the league blocking, but he also is he's a veteran. He's a guy who can identify blitzes for Darnold. I mean, you saw even like what Nick Mangold was able to do for Mark Sanchez during his early years as a Jet. I did like the dynamic of bringing in a established top veteran center and then putting our young quarterback behind him. I thought that was a really good plan for the Jets. I don't know what happened. I don't know if they were scared off by his injury. They like guys in the draft. Even if they were scared off by his injury, I don't know why you wouldn't then have made a more aggressive pitch to Mitch Morse, the Kansas City Chiefs center. I was a big believer in adding a veteran center. This probably signals to me that either they have their eye on a guy in a trade or they like somebody in the draft. But this was probably the move that they didn't make that had me miffed the most. But, once the draft is over and they've got a center, I won't care about it as much. But that was probably the most disappointing news I've seen, even more so than Barr, since you could fill the need much easier, find an edge much easier in the draft. But Kyle, your thoughts on why you're not too bummed about Paredes?
Well, for one, he is a good center. He does a very serviceable job. He's won a Super Bowl. He can obviously do his job well, and he deserves a payday. I think people were surprised at how low his contract came in because, let's be honest, he's nothing more than an area of like 8 to 12 ranked center in the NFL. And that's good. That's a good thing to have when you have a rookie quarterback. But I really wasn't trying to overpay Matt Paredes just because we need him for 1 year. That's basically what it is right now. That's how I'm looking at this. We need one guy to come in, maybe draft somebody this year, and have them be the center. That would be my goal here. And I think the Jets kind of tipped their hand by, I guess, reportedly not offering Morse or Paredes, because I do think you had to throw in an offer just because you kind of need him. But I personally wasn't willing to sign this guy to like a 3 or 4 year contract, knowing that, one, he is exiting the prime of his career. He's not great, as some people on Twitter would like to tell you. And, I think the money could be spent elsewhere, and we don't really know. Like we said, we weren't in the negotiating room. At the time, we could have had Anthony Barr, C.J. Mosley, and Le'Veon Bell on the books. And at that point, the odd man out is the center. I mean, let's be real. We'd rather have the 3 elite players than the one guy. It's like, okay, whatever. And I think the Jets are at least sort of comfortable, unfortunately, with Jonathan Harrison coming in and being the center because he's not the worst center in the world. He's average at best. We'll put it at that. He can do some things, but he's greatly improved, and the Jets re-signed him for a reason, for depth, and worst comes to worst, he's our starting center day one, which would be unfortunate. But I think the Jets tipped their hand here by not throwing in an offer. They're either trading for someone like you said, or they're really in love with a couple guys in the draft. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see them in round 2, if those 2 third-round picks that we have quickly become an early second-round pick, because that seems like something the Cagman would do.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you touched everything on
Garrett Bradbury,
Paredes.
immediate starter. Gotta
Yeah,
do it.
and Dalton Risner's there too. I mean, there are some nice centers in this draft class. I think it's probably more likely that the Jets will trade down. I'm still in favor of a trade down.
Yeah,
I mean, Josh Allen is going to be quite tempting if he's there at 3 for me. But I mean, I am in favor of a trade down because I think the strength of this draft is between rounds 2 and 5, and so I think that's where you'll see the Jets add their starting center. So, again, I was disappointed by it, but I think the Le'Veon Bell news has certainly sweetened how I felt about it. So we'll see how that plays out. Now to two of the Jets' biggest signings, obviously, C.J. Mosley. Yep. That broke last night at 3 in the morning.
Love it.
When you just you're sleeping and you just kind of wake up for a little bit, just kind of roll over, whatever, go back to sleep. I just woke up to roll over, whatever, and I just heard my phone buzz, and I was like, don't look at it, don't look at it, don't look at it. I was like, there's only a few things that could be. I thought it was going to be Le'Veon, but I looked and saw C.J. Mosley. I mean, obviously he gets a very, very rich contract, but at the same time, I mean, look,
very good linebacker.
Yeah, at the same time, probably a top 3 inside linebacker in the league. Greg Williams loves his linebackers. And, I mean, look, anytime good players hit free agency and you're not a good team,
they set a new market.
And you have all the cap space, I feel like you have to go for it. I mean, obviously, friend of the podcast, Darren Lee, is somebody that, you and I both like, Kyle, on a personal level and even as a player. It does look like the Jets will probably move on from him. I don't know yet. Maybe Greg Williams has a plan for him. But I'm not going to complain about C.J. Mosley. I think he's a top linebacker in all of football. The Jets have the cap space, and bad teams need good players, and that's exactly what I think the Jets did. Yes, it's a rich contract, but that's always going to happen in free agency, and the good players will always live up to their contract as the market rises. So, Kyle, your thoughts on C.J. Mosley?
Yeah, I love the signing. I do think it's a little expensive, but, when's the last time a top 3, like you said, inside linebacker in the NFL hit the open market? I mean, we're talking about, like, Luke Kuechly, C.J. Mosley, and who's the other guy right now? Who's going to be that third?
I'm thinking. Hold on.
I really can't.
There's definitely. In Kyle's defense, it is. In my defense too, it's 10:30 here on the West Coast, so it's 1:30 in the morning there. I was recording the emergency podcast.
It actually may be Demario Davis based off last year, stat wise, because he had a pretty phenomenal year.
I mean, yeah, he did. And I think the other thing you have to look at when you look at the Jets free agents is
the Colts linebacker. The rookie?
Darius Leonard.
Yeah, he's pretty
Darius Leonard for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing you have to look at is look at the age of the players that the Jets are signing. They're signing guys who pretty much outside of Le'Veon Bell, who's already in his prime. You're signing guys who are at the beginning of their prime or just entering it. Le'Veon Bell is probably in the middle of his prime right now, but he's still only 27.
So Mosley.
C.J. Mosley. What is C.J.? Is he 26 or 27?
I think he's 27, going into 28. I think so.
But again, but that's 2 elite players in their mid-20s. The Jets are at least not spending on guys who are 31, 32 years old and giving them these exorbitant contracts. So look, I was very excited with the C.J. Mosley deal, and I think there is some concern, I guess, with pairing him with Avery Williamson, how the coverage between the two of them is going to pan out. Both of them aren't coverage linebackers, and that this is a passing league, but C.J. Mosley is still a top-run linebacker, and he's competent in coverage, just like Avery Williamson can be at times. But that is a bit of a weak spot, I guess, if you're trying to find the negatives in this deal. But at the end of the day, I would give this signing an A+. I was really excited that they brought a player like C.J. Mosley into the fold. And obviously this leads us, Kyle, to Le'Veon Bell, which we've already kind of touched on. But, again, an A+ signing. They got this done. And not only did they get it done, they got it done at a very, very good deal for the team, a team-friendly contract. Le'Veon Bell might look back and regret holding out and not taking the deal that the Steelers threw at him, but, I'm certainly not going to hate on it. You get a player like this for Sam Darnold to build around, and I'm excited. And looking forward, the Jets still have $50 million left in cap. I think it's $50 million left in cap space to still go attack some of these other needs. I mean, look, we still need
I thought it was around 40.
Might be 40 now. Either way, they still have, enough cap space to attack some of these. They need a second corner. They need a slot corner. They still need a center, but I guess that looks like that's going to be a draft position. They need a backup quarterback, a number 2 tight end. depth at wide receiver. There are places that the Jets can spend this money.
Go get Noah Fant or T.J. Hawkinson and have the best tight end duo in NFL history. Aaron Hernandez and Gronkowski would not even compare.
I would second that, except I don't think that the Jets are going to be at the right place in the draft to get those guys. I think those are mid-round guys.
Mid-first-round guys.
Yeah, and I think even if the Jets trade down, I think you're looking at they're going to target guys at edge, guys at center, maybe a guy like Greedy Williams if he's available. But I would love to pair Chris Herndon with the valuable tight end. If we do lose a friend in the podcast and Darren Lee, maybe we gain one and bring back Austin Seferian-Jenkins as the number 2 tight end. Who knows? But Kyle, I mean, kind of looking forward, are there free agents that you want the Jets to splurge on? Now that we've got the big one out of the way, we've got Le'Veon Bell out of the way, we've got C.J. Mosley out of the way, we've addressed the majority of the needs, I guess. But there is still work to be done. There's still players out there, and they still have money to spend. So are there any guys you kind of have your eye on, or are you kind of gearing towards the draft and saving that cap space for the most part to next year?
I think you have to invest in corner a little. Bryce Callahan, as far as I'm concerned, is still on the market, unless some news is broke while we're recording this.
No, he's still on the market.
Yeah, I think you have to go. I think you should go and sign him just for pure corner depth, because right now we're looking at Tremaine Johnson, who is coming off his worst career year. Re-signed Darryl Roberts, who very well could be our number 2 corner and very well may deserve to do so because he actually played pretty well at corner last year. I feel like people forget about that.
He arguably was the best corner last year.
Yeah, let's be real. Callahan, I feel like that's just a depth signing. He's a good corner. Simple as that. You can move him all around the field. Just depth, because Perry Nickerson isn't looking too hot. Let's be real. And a friend of the podcast, Derek Bones Jones, dead ass can't get a snap. I don't know.
I will say about Derek Jones that I'm excited to see if Greg Williams does
uses
anything with him because I haven't seen Jeremy Clark, so I'm not going to really comment on that. But Derek Jones at least by all accounts was having a great summer. Didn't play at all, and then plays Week 17 against the Patriots and has a good game. So
yeah.
I'm kind of miffed as to why he didn't play more, especially with the Jets' struggles at corner. But yeah, I mean, look, I think that the Jets definitely need to assign a slot corner. Either Bryce Callahan, they do have the money for him, or go Brian Body Calhoun, I think his name is, for the Browns. That would be another guy who has experience with Greg Williams. I think, yeah, Brian Body Calhoun, right? Yeah, I had it right. I didn't want to mess up that name. I mean, look. The Jets can. He is all right. The Jets can fill some needs here, and the big one was getting a guy like Le'Veon Bell on the offense and getting a guy like C.J. Mosley on the defense. I think the Jets have really set themselves up for success for the future and heading into the draft. Kyle, I guess last kind of stuff before we wrap up here. Jets new unis dropping up, dropping in a month.
April 4th. Yeah, Le'Veon will definitely be a model.
Him and C.J. Mosley. Any thoughts, predictions, kind of what it's been about? Because we haven't talked about it at all.
It seems like black and maybe a lighter version of the green we have, maybe like a mix of what we have now and the old Kelly green. I feel like it's going to be somewhere in the middle there. The line that they keep throwing in all the graphics, I feel like those will be on the helmet. I actually wouldn't be shocked if they're the first NFL Jordan jersey. I would not be shocked because Paulie was joking when he expressed that he was joking, but the whole Take Flight thing and Nike's producing this, Take Flight is Jordan. That is the Jordan brand. I mean, when you hear Take Flight, you think Jordan shoes. You think Jordan brand. I mean, that's like one of their main things. I don't think that's a coincidence, and obviously Jordan has integrated itself into the college football lineup, the Gators. Michigan has it right now. There's a couple other teams scattered around there that just randomly have it. But, they got to get to the NFL at some point, and it looks, as of right now, I think the Jets are going to be the only new uniforms for the next couple of years. And, hey, why not?
They are the only new uniforms for this year. Then I think next year the Rams and Browns are both getting new uniforms.
Why would the Rams get new uniforms? They just got new uniforms.
No, they didn't. They only got the helmets. They've only updated the helmets, but apparently they're going full on royal blue and white in 2020 when they move into the new stadium. I don't know. Why are we talking about this at 1 in the morning?
I don't know.
Last thing. I know you want to go to bed. The big news in the NFL outside of the Jets and Le'Veon Bell, Browns trade for Odell Beckham Jr. The Jets
Oh my God.
host the Browns this season. Baker Mayfield
Monday
versus
Night
Sam
Football, for
Darnold.
sure.
Greg Williams versus his former team. They add Odell Beckham Jr. We add Le'Veon Bell. It definitely seems like a Monday Night Football matchup. I'm really excited for that one. I just want to say that. I'm really excited to watch these two teams face off.
The Giants, and Dave Gettleman.
Oh my God.
You were this motherfucker on the face of the planet. You really could have had Sam Darnold, Odell Beckham Jr., Landon Collins, right? If you just would have got rid of Eli Manning.
Yep.
I understand.
You're cutting out a little bit.
I cut out. How much did I cut out?
You can hear you, but you sound like a robot, at least on my end, which normally means the listener's end.
All right, so you could have had Sam Darnold, Odell, and Landon Collins for the price of Eli Manning. Are you kidding me? Bro, what is...
Yikes.
I can understand Odell being, pissy and being a diva because he's a great wide receiver, and that just naturally comes to great wide receivers for some reason. But if your head coach is like, yeah, I want him gone after you just signed a huge extension, and the first thing you say in your press conference at the combine is like, oh, we didn't sign Odell to trade him. You fucking lied to everybody. You lied to your fan base. You lied to the season ticket holders. You're a scumbag, dude. You're wasting this franchise away. This franchise was a legit playoff contender. They had a good core. They spent all the money, all the corners that they signed. Olivier Vernon, gone. Odell Beckham, gone. Landon Collins, gone. Janoris Jenkins, I don't even know if he's on the roster, but I'm sure he's on his way out. Every good player that they've acquired, they have gotten rid of. They have traded away. They're trying to rebuild, and they still have Eli fucking Manning as their quarterback. And I actually feel bad for Giants fans.
Me too. I mean, look, I guess we can end it on this note. As the day the Jets, yes, but the day the Giants lose a generational player, the Jets gain one. Obviously, we're ecstatic about this news. We're excited with how Mike Maccagnan handled the first few days of free agency. It was a little rough at times today, but I think he obviously closed the deal with Le'Veon Bell. And we didn't even mention, I completely forgot, re-signed Henry Anderson, which is a big need. Fills the other end. So now you have Leonard Williams at one end, Henry Anderson at the other. Still got to find a defensive tackle. Still got to find an edge. Got to find some corners. But I really like the direction.
I got to go to bed.
And Kyle's got to go to bed. So thanks for listening. We'll put this up tonight. And everybody, let's hope for some more exciting Jets free agent news.
Let's get naked, baby.